Welcome to the Time of Your Life. I'm Bill Cobb. I'll be guiding you through your rest of your life as a result of what we do here today. So, it's called Time of Your Life, which helps you organize both your time and your life. I start every seminar with the same two questions, so I hate to do something different. So I'm going to ask the first question, why are you here? I know I came for the coffee and donuts, but why are the rest of you here? What would you like to have happen today? Someone said, hey, there's this seminar, they serve coffee and donuts. You said, I'm there. Oh, by the way, what's it about? Well, managing your time in your life. Oh, I could use that. Why? What would you like to have me cover? You want to be more organized, you want to have more time, you want to get more things done, you want to be able to goof off more. I actually help you do that. So I'm done. That's it? What would you like to say? Yeah.
Time wasters.
You'd like to learn how to waste time better. You'd like to learn how to not waste time. Okay, we got a section on that. I do that at the end. I'll cover the top 10 time wasters and the top 10 time savers. Oh, I'm not working yet. And I'll show you how to get rid of the stuff that you really don't want in your life, but somehow has managed to creep in. I guarantee we'll do that. Yes, ma'am?
How to stay motivated and on track.
Motivated and on track. Yeah, that's a huge thing. If I go back to my other little diagram, little diagram. By the way, the entertainment is provided by me trying to use my computer. I got this to be able to use it, and then my roommate stole it from me, so I never get to practice on it.
Does your wife know about your roommate?
This side is just a little red dot. Okay, chase a little red dot. Okay, this side is how. easy. Okay, over here. That side is how to manage your life. This side is how to be motivated. So you can have a great set of goals, which you will have by the time you leave here. You'll even get half of them by lunchtime. But the part of the seminar that I'm really not going to cover, except more than a couple inches deep, is how to stay motivated and on track. But I give you tools to make that happen. So you will also be a happy customer getting your money's worth. Okay. What else? What else? Yeah.
Develop the, I don't want to say right goals because that sounds so light year, but yeah, develop goals that are actually, what I should be primarily trying to achieve, as opposed to just like, I would like to eat a lot of pie, or something like, something like.
You're right. It's not pie. It's donuts. Yeah, I totally understand that. You want
satisfying goals that are actually
so
satisfying.
at the end of your life, you look back and you say, "Yeah, I have no regrets." And when you stand before the judgment seat, you'll hear, "Well done. You ate the right pie." All right. So yeah, we'll cover that. Yes.
Well, related to that, how to keep the urgent and scrap out.
The old tyranny of the urgent, that will be in the top time wasters, and we will cover that, so make sure you come back after lunch. Yes, sir.
Similar to that, how to manage a hectic day versus a hectic day managing you.
Yes. Those evil hectic days. We will give you things that will help it. All right, I'll take two more. Molly?
How to break things down so that the goal doesn't seem so overwhelming. So if you want to graduate from college, that's really big, but if you just need to apply to college, it's not.
All right, so that's an important part. We're actually going to do this amazing piece of paper called a project planner that helps you do that. And at the end of the seminar, something I almost always forget to do because I left it out of my Prezi, is how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So it helps you break this down and gives you suggestions. I'm going to spend a little time, for those of you who've been to this before, on something I have left out in past years. And it's how to use the organizer to keep you motivated. It accomplishes most of the stuff that you guys are talking about. It keeps it in front of your face so you can't avoid it. All right, so all that stuff will be covered. And if I don't, ask me about it later. And if you have other things that come up, there'll be times for you to raise it again. Get to this page. I think that's the one. No! Sorry. I told you this would be entertaining. This gets old though, sorry. These little icons are too small for me. All right, it's this guy. First question is normally the same as the second question. Yeah, let me do the little magic wand thingy here. I usually have a wand. Magic wand usually has a little blurry thing on the end. And if I could wave it and change anything about your life, you're not going to answer this. I want you to think about it. Or your life, anything. What would it be? If you get that in the top of your thinking, then a lot of what I say today will be more beneficial because you just apply it directly to that item. Something that you would want to change, something that you maybe have had tried and failed, something that you thought, wow, you know, I didn't even know I could change that. There's going to be stuff like that that comes up. So think of a magic wand kind of answer, and I will help you do that. There is nothing that you cannot do as a result of the material you'll be exposed to today. I know it sounds like a pretty large claim, but it's true. Normally, I've done this used to be a 12-hour course, and I've condensed it. We're basically going to have 2 hours in the morning and lunch with a coffee break in between, and then an hour and a half or so in the afternoon. So you're just getting little pieces of it. Online, there are videos of it. This one's being videoed, so you get to hear the same bad jokes again and again and again. But there's more to it. I might have put a little plug-in for people going through this on your own. I printed up new books this year, and I had to go back and re-edit this stuff, and I'm looking at this stuff and saying, wow, that's really good. And wow, I should be thinking about that more. And if you really spend some time on that, and then the thing that kicks in are all the questions that I've asked and people I've struggled with things. I'm thinking, they were looking at this, they wouldn't have been asking those questions and struggling with those things. So there's an awesome amount of stuff here. I should probably tell you how I got into this. Later on, maybe around lunchtime, you're going to be doing something about your work. And there's a great thing about called discovering your design. And one of the tricks for doing that is you go back and you take little snapshots of yourself doing something you really enjoyed at different stages in your life. So junior high, I know nobody really enjoyed that, but 7 years old, junior high school, college, first job, and then all your different jobs, and then a vacation and a summer. So you get these little snapshots of what you really enjoyed. So when I first did the exercise, I was amazed that when I looked at all the years I spent in college, trying to get out, the thing that I enjoyed most, the image that I had, is I was sitting in the library. And I was surrounded by bunches and bunches of books. And it was the day before a big paper was due for one of my courses on management. And I kind of went through all the books, and I had been doing a little thinking about it ahead of time, and I was synthesizing what it takes to manage a successful corporation. And I'm going to share some of the fruits of that. And through the years, as I've been involved in business and other organizations, the stuff that I learned that night has been sterling. It works. But when I got out of college, I started thinking, gee, what if I took management by objectives? It's the very same thing that they teach at Harvard Business School, at least they used to, in terms of how to manage a successful corporation. Now they teach something called balanced scorecard, which I know has got to be management by objectives, because that's how businesses work, and if you don't manage by objectives, your business doesn't stay profitable and you go belly up. So I thought, what would happen if I took those principles that are useful for managing a successful business, where you have a bottom line and you can see we did it or we didn't, and I applied that to my life. So that's where TOYL was born, and it was basically taking these principles that you use for managing corporations and putting on managing lives, even for managing relationships. I've used it for parenting, for marriage. That's all it came about. So it's stuff that works, and it's stuff that you will profit from. So I used to tell my students, do an evaluative process, which I'll show you briefly, but we're not going to have time to do it, and come up with your top need and your top desire. So what is it that you'd most like? It's like the magic wand question, but these are two subsets of it. Something that you want to get rid of or change, and something that you'd like to get or have. Right? So think about top need, top desire. You can jot down the thing in code in the margin of your book, or a 3x5 card if you carry them around. So that's the kind of stuff I'm going to do. I'm going to help you set objectives. I'm going to help you figure out where you want to go, and I'll give you all the kinds of tools you could use to get there, and I'll hopefully motivate you to actually use the tools and build the kind of life that you want. Okay, question number 2. Why are you here? Uh-oh, didn't we just ask that? Early Alzheimer's is a terrible thing to have happen to a young man. You know, why are you here on this planet? You know, why do you get up in the morning, go to work every day? Why do you get up? Because I got to go to work. Why do you go to work? So I can get money. Why do you want money? Well, so I can pay my rent, so I have a place to sleep, so I can go back to work the next day. Wait, no, I want my money so I can eat. All right, so you get up, you go to work, so you get money so you can eat to hold body and soul together, so you can do it again the next day. And somewhere along the lines it should sink in that just surviving isn't really what life is about. This past Christmas we had the privilege of going down to the Bahamas and this little private island that the ship stopped at. And I'm not a beach person because I burn like that, so we found a little spot overlooking the beach, and it was in the trees. What would they call trees? They're these like twigs. You hang your towel up over them so you can fry. And I'm looking out, it's a really pretty little cove. And I noticed there's a guy on one of those floating mats, right? And the waves are coming in and he moves a little bit. And you know, the waves go out and he moves a little bit. And then he starts drifting towards some rocks, so you see him kind of paddle over. And you know, then he's just kind of floating around and just, you know, wherever the waves go. And I realized he really is not that much different from the lump of seaweed that was doing the same thing next to him. Because the seaweed was light enough that when it got near the rocks, the backwash would push it out. So the seaweed just didn't even have to paddle once. And then I looked out at the edge of the cove where the oceans or sea starts, and I see these people in kayaks, you know, going through and exploring and doing other things. And I realized that's the difference between people who plan their lives and people who don't. The people who don't plan their lives, who are aware of why they're on this planet, where they're headed, are like that guy in the mat. They're just drifting, and they think they're making progress because the external forces are moving them back and forth, and oh yeah, I got away from those rocks, phew! And then, you know, 20 minutes later, oh, there are the rocks again, I better paddle away. Yeah, this is a fulfilling life. I'm staying away from the rocks and I'm bouncing up and down the waves. As opposed to the people that are actually out in the boat, making progress, going somewhere. If you don't have a sense of purpose and objectives and plans to support that purpose, you're just basically the lump of seaweed. And I want to move you into a kayak and get you across the ocean. I probably will get you out of the bay, not that far today. So, why do you go to work? We kind of covered that. And now we're going to look at 3 things, and this will take most of our morning. We're going to look at how you discover your purpose for living. Some people call it a mission statement. Anybody here have a mission statement who hasn't been here before?
More pie.
More pie, yeah. Well, different types of pie. Let's just make it something that encompasses your pie. I want to try pie from every country on the planet. Mission statement. It's like, where are you headed? What do you want out of life? Okay, so that's your mission statement. We're going to work on doing that. And then you're going to set a focus on your energies in what's called objectives. It's this stuff right here. Oh, that's right, I put this in here so I could actually do this. Whoa, look at that. Whoa.
Whoa!
It's journal, right? Yeah, so I still don't know how to use it very well. One of those Microsoft products I hate using. Yeah. So we're going to do objectives. So I got purpose. I forgot I could do this here. We got objectives. And we're going to set objectives in 5 areas. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I tried to put them in, but it would take me half the day to do that. But they fit on your fingers, so you can always kind of remember where they are. You got work and career. All right, so we'll spend some time on that. Most of you work and you think about career. You have relationships. Anybody here have relationships, like people that you have to interact with? We'll talk about all those people that you like and dislike. We'll show you how to do that. Personal growth, this is called sharpening the saw, so you can be more effective in what you do. I'll tell you a horrible, horrible joke during that time. So something to look forward to. One of the many. And then we'll look at spiritual growth and how you do ministry, service, something that's outside yourself. And then we'll look at goals that help you develop that. That comes later. Then, this actually, and almost everything I say has an hour sermon on it on truthbase.net. It's all over the place, and there are little cards up here for you. So over the years, I put together things that help people live purposefully and with their goals. And there's lots of background on it. But in order to overcome the problems that you have in reaching your goal, you need these guides. You need knowledge of the objective, so we're going to get that in the next hour. You need some methodology. You'll get that in the hour after this coming one. You need motivation. That comes after lunch. And then you need, basically, if you can't get it by then, you need how to reprogram your values and your feelings and your emotions. And we do that after lunch as well. I got a bunch of tools. If you look at the table of contents, it's all a bunch of tools. And these ones are the ones that we'll specifically focus on for our time today. Purpose and objective worksheet, I think we're going to go do that in a minute. How to develop a life purpose, project planner, most powerful piece of paper on earth. How to get started when you're stuck, how to keep going when you want to quit. That's called a goal galvanizer. This next one, autopsy, is great. I probably won't get to it. It's what do you do when you have a dead goal? And if you've tried doing the goal galvanizer and it doesn't get you there, then you do the autopsy. And I guarantee you, if you can complete an autopsy, you will know exactly what needs to happen to make your goal a reality. And then the decision maker is a really cool thing. It's how to figure out what you should actually be doing. Any questions thus far? Yes? Oh, that's a wave. All right. Oh yeah, one of those. Arsene, you got one of these? Okay, here. Want to pass that out? Thanks. Okay, so this is the picture inside your book, which hopefully you'll be able to explain by the time you leave here today. The one on the front of your book, my son did, and if you can figure out what that means, you're really doing good. But flip it open, this is where this item is, and I'm going to explain how some of these things work. The next page is your table of contents. By the way, the pages in the book are probably going to be too off from the pages that are on your screen, so we'll figure that out when we get there. So this is the time of your life, and I'm supposed to tap it, and it gets to the next one. Yes?
Whoa!
Whoa, this is called Prezi for those of you who... and I couldn't figure out how to edit my old ones, so some of the things were a little out of date. Where are my minions when I need them? Oh, they're in college, that's right. Okay, so time of your life, I'm going to give you that. Where do we go? This is the stuff we just covered. And this focus thing is what is key. I asked a question a long time ago. Why did I do that? I did something I didn't like doing. And I realized, oh man, it's because I was thinking about it. Why was I thinking about it? Because I wanted to do it. And then I began to realize this great truth of life. We basically do what we want. If the life that you have is the life that you want to have. It's like you have chosen the life you have. Our life is a product of our decisions, and if you make better decisions, you get a better life. If you make worse decisions, you get a worse life. So then I ask the next question, okay, if I do what I want, why do I want it? And the answer, I think, is because I perceive that doing X, Y, or Z is more beneficial than doing A, B, or C. So that's why I do it. It's an economic kind of decision. I benefit from doing this. In my value system, I get more benefit from doing that. If I have a short-term, self-centered value system, I do things that give me short-term, self-centered value. If I have a long-term, other-centered value system, I do things that give me long-term, other-centered benefits. It's that simple. So we have to learn how to understand our values and then change them so they support what we really want in life. And I'll show you a number of ways how to do that. You develop goals that help you reach your objective through an acrostic called POSE. This is management by objectives. Planning, organizing, supervising, and evaluating. Every organization that succeeds does these things. I'm really fond of finding people who have been through management and leadership classes and courses and even degrees and asking them, what's the difference between management and leadership? And incredibly, I've yet to find someone who can articulate a nice, concise answer. But the one that I believe fits is leadership is selling on change. Guy comes in to turn around a business, he has to sell the employees and the board and everyone else on change. If you basically can say, we need change. Well, why do we need change? Well, it's in our best interest to do it. Here's why. And that's selling on change. What I found as a skill that is really, really lacking in people's lives is the ability to sell themselves on changing. And one of the paradigms I started developing is that people change when they hit rock bottom, because then all their other alternatives are blown up and they have experienced massive amounts of pain, and they finally are open to maybe doing something a little differently. So I thought, wouldn't it be a whole lot smarter if we didn't wait until we blew up, hit rock bottom, and were in agony, writhing on the ground before we decided, maybe I should do something differently. So in order to do that, you need to figure out what you're doing gets you. And you need to do that evaluation stuff. So we're going to actually start with the process of evaluation. With the tools already. Life management tasks, these are the objectives if you took the long-term seminar. I might put it on you, basically break this down and do a little YouTube, 10 minutes at a shot. But that's what would happen if you're here for 12 hours. But we're going to focus on, let's see, yes, purpose, objectives, priorities, and goals for our first time this morning. It's like the third or fourth time I said it, so it shouldn't catch you by surprise when we do that. Let's see what we got. Oh yeah, that's what we have. And let's go to, oh yeah, this is a flow chart. For those of you who don't like the big picture idea, which I should go back and show you, I will in a minute. But this is how you accomplish something. Let's do it from the standpoint of a business. If you've been here before, wait 5 seconds before you answer. We want to start a business, we want to sell shoes. What do we need to sell shoes? Shoes, you need shoes. Okay, what do we need to get shoes? Leather. Okay, who said leather? Good one. What else? Labor. Oh, who said labor? Nice. Division of labor if you're a real cool economics guy. What?
Demand.
Demand. How do you get demand? I mean, you actually want to know what people want.
Well, shoes are built in.
That's really important, yeah. What else?
Factory make.
I beg your pardon?
Factory make.
A factory, a place to make them, so we got materials, labor, a place to make it,
Place to sell them.
place to sell them, Amazon. But,
Yeah.
A template for making shoes.
okay, a model. How are we going to get our model? This goes to Cody's answer.
Capital.
You need capital, yeah, that's always helpful.
Past experience. I mean, shoes not something you're inventing, so I guess improve the past
What
design.
people are looking for.
What people are looking for, you need focus groups, you need a design. Okay, so the key thing with shoes, normally I get leather first, which is true, but you need a design, because we might want to make them out of polyvinyl chloride and call them imitation leather. So you need a design which is based on what people want. So you do a focus group and you get that. So I'm basically, the first part of our thing is we're going to be looking at these, I'm going to go a little higher here. This research and evaluation into your life, and that's the stuff we're looking at today. Some of the tasks that you do is you brainstorm, you make deposits in your idea bank, which is the battery back page. Can you pass it down? So you can see it? Oh, good. Okay, great. Let me have it back. On the very back page of this thing called idea banks. And if I say something you think, wow, that is really outstanding, which you should be thinking that all the time. But if it's something that's really super duper outstanding, you go to the back here and you jot it down. So at the end of the seminar, when you are so overloaded from drinking to the fire hose, that you can say, oh yeah, there was some things that I actually wanted to do. So you pop them in there. So it's called an idea bank. Lots of great ways to use those, I can tell you later. So what we have next after this is, let's see if I can do this. So marketing and sales. You decide what you're going to do. You actually have to do this for yourself. Then you actually have the manufacturing process. This is the actual organizer. Okay, the actual organizing process, and then some accounting tools. So accounting is important. We're going to start pretty soon there. Okay, we're going to look at this, and we're going to look at the. That's your left, right? Your left. The left, which is my left. Great. The left side of this. Oh, here's a key verse. TOYL basically, I should tell you how I put this together. After I started putting the management stuff in, I started reading everything back in the late 70s that was on the market, in the library, in magazines, on time and life management. And through the years, every time a new book came out, I would read it. About 10 years ago, I gave up because it's still the same stuff. There's nothing new. Even any research I come up that's cutting edge, I can actually find it 30 years ago. So it's all old hat. The reason this sells is people try something, it doesn't work, and they say, I need the new magic bullet. So management by objectives didn't work, we'll try Seven Sigma. Seven Sigma, we'll try balanced scorecard. And then consultants sell these to corporations who think, this is going to work. Now it's the same basic stuff. I have here a time management system that costs $25,000. It's about, where'd it go? Here it is, right here. It's about, 80, 90 years old. Right here, there it is, the $25,000 system. Most of you know this. How many actually use the $25,000 time management system? Look at that, we actually got some using it. Great. The stuff in the back is the $250,000 time management system. But this works. There's a guy called Andrew Carnegie. He did a steal, Carnegie Foundation and all that other good stuff. He hired a management consultant by the name of Ivy Lee to help him be more effective. This is after he had his millions. He wanted more. So Ivy Lee comes in, follows him and his staff around, and says, I think I got something that would help you. Reaches into his pocket, pulls out an index card, and he says, before you go home tonight, write what you have to do tomorrow. Actually, he tells him, come in the next morning, write down what you have to do, put it in priority order, do the first one until it's done, do the second one until it's done, and then work down your list until it's done. And Carnegie said, all right, what do I do? He said, why don't you try for a month, see what it's worth, send me a check. So a month later, tight-fisted Scotsman, really tight with money, sends Ivy Lee a check for $25,000 for an index card. Now, in today's money, it's worth $250,000. Now, my $250,000 system is in the back. It's a little bit more advanced than a card. I'll give you samples of it, and I'll do the same thing. But the motivation to get stuff done comes from this verse. God's at work in you to will and to do His good pleasure. It's out of Philippians 4th chapter, 13th verse. The basic idea behind this is that the Spirit of God produces in people the desire to do His will as well as giving the power to do it. And I'll talk a little later about living life with a power assist, in addition to caffeine, and we'll come back to it then. So we're going to look at this piece right now. Let's see if it's a little bigger. Good. Yes, it does. Okay. We're going to look at purpose, objectives, and goals. Now, what's the difference between these things? Since I normally do this in January, there's this thing called professional football, and I use this illustration. This is Super Bowl. Why is there a Super Bowl? Why is there professional football? Entertainment?
To make money.
To make money. That's the reason why they do it. The purpose of professional football is to make money. Otherwise, we just go out in the park and throw things around and be fine. Why do we have to pay people millions of dollars and go through all this stuff? It's to make more money. So the purpose of it is to make money. That's why most businesses exist, to make money. Otherwise, why are they in business? So then, how do you actually get into the Super Bowl? You have to win games. As many games as possible. Right? That's the objective. Purpose, make money, get to the Super Bowl. You do that by hitting the objective of winning as many games as possible. Now, what happens when the ball goes over that line at the end where it has the uprights? What do they call that?
Points.
Points is another word. Touchdown, yeah, with one more.
Goal.
Goal! Yes! We got it. All right. Okay, so the goal is something that is specific, it's measurable, you know when it happened. And what do they do to hit their goals, to get goals? They work out a play, right? So we're going to eventually talk about the plan of action. See that stuff over there? We're going to look at that in a little while, okay? So our purpose is why we do something. Our objectives is what we do to fulfill our purpose. Our goals deal with when we actually implement our stuff, and then we'll actually have a plan of action which actually has a little word down there which says where we actually do it and how we do it. Okay? So we're going to work on getting you to have some purpose, objectives, and goals in our time together. See if this goes to the next page correctly. Oh yeah, I should just go through it as long as I got the screen up. After you hit your plan of action, you accomplish something. Now, this is on the inside of your book here. If you look at the rest of it, all this stuff, yeah, it's you in the center, you're looking pretty skinny. That's you. All these things are forces that motivate you. The biggie is God's at work in you to will do His good pleasure. That's the little Holy Spirit up there. The way I used to draw it looked like a flying banana, but then a friend took pity on me and redrew it for me. So I lost my flying banana joke. But there's those various influences, and they all work together to help you actually achieve something. Then at the very end, down here, you achieve something. Da 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 da! Alright, so there's an old proverb that says if you sow an act, you reap a habit. If you sow a habit, you reap a character. You sow a character, you reap a destiny. And that's true. Your actions determine who you become. And the circle goes around, who you are determines what your actions are. But what we achieve is actually significant long-term because we just multiply it. So we start with evaluating where we are and what we've got. Because a map is useless to us if we don't know where we are. If I gave you a map and said, okay, that's where you want to go, the first question you need to ask yourself is, where am I? So you need an accurate understanding of where you are. And people deceive themselves left, right, and sideways, pretending that they are where they are not, and as a result, they never get out of where they are. They're like the guy in the cove, he just stays there. Yeah, look.
Why is evaluation the final step and not the first step?
It actually is our first step, but in the process, a business starts out, and you're just starting. We want to basically win the Super Bowl. We want to do this, then we have to evaluate where we are, and then set the plans again. So,
oh, got it. So when you're done, you start right.
Right. The stuff that's on the screen right now is what you do every day, week, month, year. The stuff that we're going to look up on the top is something you only really need to do, once or twice, maybe tweak it every now and then.
So
But it's one of those tasks that once you're done, you're done.
that's why it loops back around the...
Yeah, that's why it goes.
field
Now,
direction.
now we got the circle. Okay. So the stuff up top is something that. Let's see if I can go back. Yeah, that stuff, purpose objectives, it's where you start from. While we're on this wonderful piece of artwork, you'll notice some other things about it. Purpose is in a pretty square box. Purpose for people is kind of a universal thing, why you're on this planet. One of my favorite mantras is the only way I as a finite being can know infinite things is if an infinite being reveals it to me. So there are lots of people who say, oh, your purpose should be this, your purpose should be that, it's the purpose du jour, whatever purpose will sell, whatever purpose we give a nifty title to, and it just fluctuates. I'm looking for something that's going to be good for the rest of my life, and it's going to be good for the rest of humanity. So why we're on this planet is pretty universal because the experience of being on this planet is universal. I do this little thing on how you got onto this planet doesn't make any difference if you were born, 2,000 years before Christ in Africa or 2,000 years after Christ in Asia. It's a universal experience. At the other end of the equation, when you leave the planet and what happens to you, it's universal. It's not affected by time or culture. Therefore, how I got here and where I'm going are universals. The stuff in between is universals. So how do I find out what the universal purpose for my life is? My objectives are going to be different. You notice they're a little fuzzy. That was supposed to be a little fuzzy thing because that has needs and interests coming in. But I'm going to look at the scriptures to see what the Revelation has to say about why we're here. And I'll look a little bit at it for some of the other things as well. By the way, I mentioned all the books that I read when I became a believer. I also started integrating what the scriptures had to say. And lo and behold, I don't think I found any principle that was not already in the scriptures 2,000 years before I started looking. They were all there. So there's a whole bunch of pages of biblical basis for it. I didn't have the neurobiological studies in the scripture, but I had the conclusion of those studies in the scripture. So you guys can spend some time on your own digging through those, but I don't have time today to do that. So where do we go next? The magic thing goes to planning. All right, so I got a lot of tools on planning. Planning is the first step of leadership. You're going to have a purpose and objective worksheet. That's what we do next. I'm going to look at bad, better, best, the old scratch your head kind of thing. That's really useful. I've got values that support it. There's sermons on the values. And the thing that I'm not going to cover, because we don't have a huge amount of teens, is the teen competencies. So the teen competencies are in there. If you're a teen or a parent of a teen, we need a book down that way. Pass one over back. Follow that man with a book. You want to look those on your own. If you're a parent, make sure your kid reads it. So the first thing we do is, why are we here? And this is my stuff I just covered. On evaluation, you put your life under a little bit of a microscope and you evaluate. In the beginning of your book, you have something that I used to have my students do before they came to the seminar, and they evaluated each area of their life. The 5 areas that I talked about: working career, relationships, personal growth, spiritual growth, and ministry. And I actually put extra in there. And whenever I'd read something and said, oh, this is a good thing to have in your life, I'd pop it on my list. So the list kept growing and growing and growing. And I normally try not to look at this because I feel badly about myself when I do. Like, oh, a failure. But as I was kind of re-editing it to make sure the lines didn't go crazy, I realized, wow, there's some really good stuff in here. So I would encourage you to bite the bullet, and on a day you're feeling good about yourself, take a look at it. It'll solve that real quickly, and you'll kind of be, whoa. All right, so that takes about 2 hours to do that if you really want to be thoughtful and reflective. The 45-minute cheater version is over here, yearly evaluation. Just 2 weeks ago I did a sermon on this. You can go find it, and it helps you evaluate your life in 45 minutes. It talks about why we enjoy self-deception rather than evaluation, why we should evaluate ourselves. The basic reason we should evaluate ourselves is so we don't keep making the same mistake. If you keep making the same mistake, you'll still get the same results that you've always gotten, which you haven't always liked. So Roman numeral 3 says what we should evaluate and key questions to ask. And the one that I want to zoom in on is, let me see if I can actually zoom in a little bit on this one. Open, there it is what have you done intentionally rather than haphazardly to progress? Are you the guy like who's in the cove on the air mattress being buffeted by the waves and says, oh, I'm moving because the waves are moving me? Or are you like the guy out in the sea in the kayak actively exploring? What a lot of people do is they cheat and they look back in the year and say, oh, I did this and this and this. Great. All right. How did that happen? Was it intentional? Or did the waves just take you there? You're not really living unless you are proactively moving in a purposeful direction. So that brings me to the next point. What is progress have you made toward fulfilling your purpose? What value have I added to my employer? I know, you should have figured this out. Why are you getting paid? Why do they pay you? Because they like your smile? It's because you actually render some sort of service. So this is an outline you can hear the elaboration on. Under relationships, there's a whole bunch of relationships that are worth evaluating. Your friendships, your marriage, your parenting, your coworkers. Under friendships, how are you benefiting and serving your friends? I'm intended to use them. So when we look at the relationships objective, we'll talk more about that. What comes next? Oops, I have to go this way. Evaluation, and purpose and objectives. Okay, so we're going to look at this sheet of purpose for which you are on this planet. Take 30 seconds and jot down what page is that?
Page 26.
Page 26, thanks. Yeah, make sure the person next to you finds the right pages. Some of you might need a page buddy. It's over this one. Oh, yeah, that one. All right. Well, you got 20 seconds left. Why are you here? What's your purpose for being on the planet? No one's going to see it. I'm not going to ask you. So this is just for you. So go to work, get a paycheck, pay the rent, so have a comfortable place to sleep, food to eat, so I can go back to work the next day.
My kids do the same thing.
Kids do this. Yeah, to propagate the species, right? It's like a piece of seaweed next to the guy in the mat, you know, it just it does the same thing. It bounces around so it can live to bounce around and multiply. All right, now we're going to have a little time. Okay, finish scratching your head. Now we're going to actually look at the secrets of happiness. Remember I told you you're going to be happy as a result of today? Most people are about as happy as they've chosen to be. Let's see. This is a study, got it, by one of my favorite guys, David B. Myers. He wrote the most frequently used textbook on college psychology. My kids used it when they were in college. And he and his research team read hundreds of dissertations and books on what makes people happy. They scrutinized all these studies and they boiled it down to like 8 or 10 things that actually make people happy. So if you want to be happy, pick one of these things, and then I'll just give you a project planner that will actually help you get it into your life, and you can't help but be more happy. The stuff above is stuff that doesn't really have a major impact on happiness. It's myths, and here's the stuff that is good. Fit and healthy bodies. Do you have any control over that? You do?
Yep.
All right, please pass the donuts, and I'll feel better about myself. Okay, so you can set a goal to do that. There's ways to do that. We can talk a little bit about that if you want. Realistic goals and expectations. If you don't have any goals, you probably won't be as happy. You have realistic goals and expectations, you'll be happier. Positive self-esteem. Does anybody know where you get positive self-esteem? It's actually an outline called Magic Web of Self-Esteem. But if you can affect your present life and your future, you actually start feeling good about yourself. Like, you know, I couldn't do this, then I actually succeeded. Like, you might have started out with a course once upon a time and you're doing poorly, and you realize, I'm going to flunk if I don't do better, and then you actually did better, and you wound up getting a good grade in the course, and you said, yeah, I can do it, all right? So, or when you flunked, you know, an assignment at work, and you just really screwed up, and then you went back and you fixed it, you feel good about yourself when you can set a goal and hit it. So, that makes sense. Feeling of control, obviously that flows from being able to hit a goal. I can control my future. Optimism, if you're always failing and never able to succeed in reaching a goal, how does your future outlook look? Bleak. But if you really think, you know, I can change my life, I can basically make it whatever I want, I can put together a blueprint, and with the tools I give you, I can build it, that should give you a feeling of optimism. Supportive friendships that enable companionship and confiding. Got a little section on relationships, some really good information on friendships. I think I covered that before lunch, and I can't remember. A socially intimate, sexually warm, equitable marriage. There is one page on here on marriage, and as I was kind of reformatting it for the printer today, I thought, man, these principles, if they were just applied, all the marriage counselors in the world would be out of business. It's just like some really straightforward stuff that actually works. Challenging work and active leisure. So we'll talk about work, we'll talk about play, punctuated by adequate rest and retreat. We'll talk about changing jobs, so how to evaluate your job, how to find a job you can love. And then last but not least, this shows up in everything. Faith that entails communal support, purpose, acceptance, outward focus, and hope. So these are the things from both secular and mainly secular sources that said this is what it takes to be happy. You can put these things into your life, and I designed the seminar to make sure you get each of these items. So there's a thing on self-esteem, there's a thing on friendships, there's stuff on work, stuff on goals, and then you'll be able to live happily ever after. Another take on happiness was a Gallup poll, when they came up with a success personality traits. Being a hard worker, number one. There's ways to help your work habits. I have to talk about being sluggards later on in the book. Establishing well-defined personal goals. If you have those, it helps you be successful. The rest you can read. There's a section on leadership. Last one, 16, love of reading and lack of TV. I mentioned this to some of you a couple of weeks ago. At the beginning of each class, I give my students a getting to know you sheet. I ask them their favorite movies, music, books, TV shows. And all the kids who have no books and huge number of TV shows, I know, are going to flunk the course. They always do. Some of you are familiar with Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, in which he looks at world-class people. And the secret to being world class at something is to spend a mere 10,000 hours doing it. 10,000 hours happens to be a 4-year graduate degree. 7 hours a day, 365 days for 4 years, you got it. It can also be done 10 years for 3 hours a night. So if you do something 3 hours a night for 10 years, at the end of those 10 years, you will be world class at it. So then I asked my class, what do most Americans do for 3 hours a night? They watch TV. So we're becoming actually we have become a nation of world-class couch potatoes. You know, that's what we do, because we put all this time into it. And we're passive, and we're not proactive, and we just kind of buffet, you know, we're buffeted by the waves. So you can change that. If you took there's so much discretionary time in our lives that if we made that count and put it towards us without changing anything else, we could start being well on our way to be world class on it. And then once the momentum starts, then you'll wind up putting in more time, and it'll happen even faster. Okay, so we're going to figure out how you go to happily ever after. My son's graphics, like, really like it.
That part of the Bible.
From the Wizard of Oz. So this is how you'll get there by this next exercise, which should be bad, better, best. Okay, this is where you actually get to talk to the people next to you for 5 minutes. All right. So remember, purpose is where you're headed, like professional football. Purpose to make money. Objective is how you get there, win the most possible games. Goals is when something actually goes over the line. So we're in that first thing. Why do we do something? Why do we bother living? So there's bad and better ones. This is a 3-minute exercise. Discuss with each other why the bads are bad. These are ones that people commonly have. So why are the bads bad? Go ahead. Talk to a neighbor. Pick a neighbor. Do it in groups of 3, 2, whatever.
Right, I think the best is like come up with your own No, I did. I mean, I thought that was the
Okay, may I have your attention, please? Anybody whistle? Okay, thanks. All right. If you're good, I'll let you do this again. So you take more than 4 minutes doing it, and you get off track. Okay, what's wrong with the first one? To exist for the next 24 hours in a relatively happy, comfortable state.
It's not going to get you anywhere.
Not going to get you're just going to be a lump of seaweed bouncing around the gulf, right? So that doesn't get you anywhere. But that is actually most people's unstated objective. Everybody's got objectives, and that's really their objective. If you look at someone that's not going there, that's their objective. They don't want to put the effort and energy into moving outside where they are because it's uncomfortable. So they can just bounce around in the cove for the rest of their days. What's wrong with dying with the most toys? You can't. Oh, bummer. There used to be a New Yorker magazine where they have these guys up at the pearly gates, and you know, everybody's in line, and there's one guy who drives up with a caddy and a giant U-Haul, and he goes right through the pearly gates. With one guy turns to the other and says, "I thought you couldn't take it with you." But you can take it with you, all right? It's temporal. You know, it's not going to last. So you give yourself something that doesn't last. It was funny. Last night I was looking for some batteries and opened up one of our cabinets, and I have a really wonderful wife. I've been aware of that on multiple levels. And the reason I know how wonderful she's been on things which I was not so aware of is it was an entire cabinet full of defunct electronics. And I looked at each one when I bought it. It was the best. It was wonderful. And now it's just sitting there thinking, you know, it's like I couldn't even sell these on eBay. It's like there's nothing to them. So everything you try to get is just going to be outdated. The same thing works with spouses, by the way, too. No, not my current one. It's wonderful. As is Han's first wife. So. But if you look at it, people try to recycle wives. It's like I've got to have this person, and then a year or two later, bye. You know, they're not really satisfied. How about define security and significance outside of God? Most people don't have that last phrase on, prepositional phrase outside of God, but they're trying to find security and significance.
It's not sustainable. You won't always get your security and significance out of one thing or the other, or you can't determine whether or not it's going to be available.
Right, if you try to get your security and significance from something that is temporal, it doesn't last. And, you know, then you've lost your 15 minutes of fame, now what? You know, what do those people do who got their 15 minutes of fame? Like, do they live for the next 15 minutes? Do they say, okay, I had it, now the rest of my life I just, you know, coast? Or what goes on with that?
I have a side question that relates to it.
Sure.
Sorry if it's a little bit Sunday School 101, but is one of the ways that we can know God even exists is because since we don't see a physical thing, we don't ever hear an actual literal voice, and all that kind of like empirical stuff. Is it because attempting to live, to find security and significance outside of God ends up being so fruitless? Is it sort of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
Pascal said there's a God-shaped vacuum in every man's heart that can only be filled by God. So you try to fill with everything else, and you realize, maybe let's try this God thing.
That's what makes it easiest for me to try to do that. That's the one I tried the most, and the reason it's so easy for me to try the most, more so than the other ones, is because it's not like I can go over to God's house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And shake his hand and be like, oh, okay, dude, let's go. You know?
Yeah, so, I mean, you find it that way. There's other ways on the existence plane. It's more reasonable to believe that you were created than you just popped into being. More reasonable to believe there's a purpose for you being here than not.
Right.
So, you know, there are other factors. We're going to get to that.
But what's the middle of the night?
I think there's other thing on security too. You can actually really never truly be fully secure because you never know when there's going to be a tsunami and an earthquake or like natural disasters that are completely out of your control, regardless of how hard you try to be in an underground bunker that's safe and secure.
Bring on that tsunami. I have my AK-47 until Obama takes it away.
Oh.
But what good is an AK-47 against a tsunami? Oh, bummer. It's not going to work. Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay, so better ones, you know, the way this seed is structured, bad ones are ones that are commonly believed. Better, pick any of them, understand them. Best is your own, all right? So this is just to help you think through it. To give you a little otherworldly insight, there's a section called Biblical Basis for TOYL. As I mentioned, I read all these books on it. I found out that they matched what was in the scriptures, except for this one, because you don't find this in too many books. You might find it in The Purpose-Driven Life. Let's see if I go up. There it is. Interesting little chapter in Isaiah. It's not kind of the middle of the Bible. God says, everyone that is called by my name, he's talking about the Jewish people, who I created for my glory, whom I formed and made, people I formed for myself, that they should show forth my praise. Jumping into the New Testament, the one in 1 Corinthians 10:31 says, whatever you do, do it for the glory of God. Anybody hear this before? You know, it's kind of common. I've asked this in a number of my classes and seminars. Everybody says, oh yeah, okay, so how do you glorify God? And then there's dead silence. Last year there was actually a high school kid who had a decent answer on this one. And so I get to tell you a little story. When I finished grad school, Jill and I went backpacking across Europe. And when you start getting to these little towns, they've got two things in every little town that's worth visiting: a cathedral and a pub. So we go to the pub at lunch, then we go to the cathedral, look around, and you're out and it's sunny and you can't see. So I'm a real stained glass nut. So I have a wonderful wife who's very patient with my addiction. And we go and I photograph all the stained glass, and I'm waiting for my eyes to adjust to look at the frescoes, which is the stuff they paint on the ceilings and walls, and it's usually in the dark. So in the front behind the altar, they've got this fresco of God in His glory. He's a king, He's on His throne, He's sitting there ruling. And then I had what you could almost call a religious experience. As I'm watching it, all of a sudden the thing burst into light. And there was a lot of gold overleaf, and it reflected off the thing, and wow, it just kind of magnified it. And I'll tell you in 2 minutes actually why that happened. It's a very interesting piece of information. But I want to talk about how to glorify God first. Oh, that's terrible. What happened? Patience. Okay. Some more verses. Jesus actually had a little line in here. John 17. Where's that? Right there. I brought you glory on earth by completing the work He gave you to do. Paul wanted to complete the task that God gave him to do. We're supposed to do good works. So what is glory? How do I do that? Here we go. One more. The Hebrew word for glory is kavod, which means liver. So, they're in a battle, the guy split open, they'd see this liver on the ground, and they point to it, it's a kavod. And that's what it was. It's the biggest, most important organ of the body. And they're actually right, because without your liver, you die. Cirrhosis of the liver, you drink too much, you get that. It doesn't produce the enzymes, fights cancer if you have it. It's a really nice kind of thing to have, so you want to be friends with your liver. But anyway, your liver is considered in Hebrew thought to be the most important organ of the body, but it has a secondary meaning of to be important or to make important. So one of the pieces that we want to do is fulfilling this purpose of glorifying God is making Him look important. Now, the reason the light went on in that cathedral is over on the side by one of the little chapels. I thought it was a box for lighting a candle or something. Someone put a 500-lire coin and then it turns on the electricity for 2 minutes. So you pop your 500-lire coin in, and because they don't want to keep the lights on all the time, and it might end up damage the fresco. I think it's mainly a money-making thing. And someone else went over, popped the coin in, and voila, the lights went on, and I got to see God in His glory. And I reflected, really, that's what part of our purpose is. We need to pay the cost so others can see the glory of God. Jesus said, let your light shine for men that they can see your good works and glorify your Father who's in heaven. Somewhere up there. Don't go away, come back. So that's kind of what we want to do. You need to understand that God is inherently glorious. There's this really cool thing when He's Israel in Egypt. And before He goes to the Red Sea, He says, I'm going to gain glory over Pharaoh at the Red Sea. And then you saw that God was greater than Pharaoh when Pharaoh got trashed and the Israelites escaped. Actually, all the plagues are polemics against the Egyptian gods. My Western Civ stuff, but that's kind of the background behind that. So how do you cause God to be seen? How, you go around looking for boxes to put 500-lire coins in? No, that's not going to work. What is it that you can do to fulfill your purpose of making God look good in the eyes of others? And there's actually a sermon on this on truthbased.net if you want the longer version. The short version, there are 5 things you can do. Live your lives in risky dependence upon Him, so He regularly intervenes and answers prayers. This is what the Psalms are all about. David's in a fit. He says, God, my enemies are surrounding me, I'm going to get killed. Help! And then God comes up and helps. And David says, praise you, and he kind of writes a psalm. All right, that's kind of the basis of most of the Psalms. That probably knocks out at least half of 80 of them. Okay. Proclaiming to God, others how God has revealed himself and answering prayers in his word. So, that's kind of what people do, praise time. Demonstrating the character of God in our own lives. So he's revealed through us to others. We're the extension of him, the mirror of his grace. We are reflections of his character. So you develop a godly character, an other-centered character. It's not all about you. It's about benefiting others, love and all that stuff. That is another means of doing it. Acknowledging the supreme worth of God through our unreserved heart, mind, soul, and strength obedience. The other thing, you're supposed to love God with all you got, heart, mind, soul, and strength. We first had a Big Apple Chapel. We had a couple guys who worked on Wall Street in investment banking firms. And one of them told me a story of his associate who billed the client for 25 hours worth of work one day. Uh-oh, you made a mistake. No, he actually didn't. He started in New York and finished in Chicago. He worked around the clock, and the client was very glad to pay for all those hours. Now I'm thinking, wow, that firm is actually pretty good. If they can get that amount of performance out of their employees, they must compensate them well, they must dangle all kinds of promises in front of them. But almost all the investment bankers I know give their lives to their companies. And as a result, the idea of an investment banking company is, wow, because they look important in our eyes. They are actually glorified by the lives of employees who give their lives to their company. Contrast that with the basic approach of Christians towards God. Or almost any, it's like, an hour a week if the game's not on. It's like, it's like, where's the devotion? Where's the, he's worth it. They say behind worship is somebody who's worth it. And what's he worth? He's worth what we give him. If we don't give him anything, he doesn't look too good. I got one more there I wanted to cover. Oh yeah, disciple making. The whole idea behind disciple making is you reproduce the four means above. And there's stuff later on, which I'm probably not going to get to, that actually helps you do that, the survey of discipleship. What do we have down here? Next one.
I'm sorry, I've got another.
Yes, sure.
Is this? How do I'm trying to figure out a way to ask this so I can not blasphemous. Yeah, no. I've read stuff a lot in high school and college. We were studying philosophies and religions and reading things from various faith texts and stories. And though a lot of the language is different, it seems that I've heard a lot of this in different forms, in like things I've read about, or through Buddhism and through Islam and different. And so, like, why? This seems to work best. Has worked best for me, but why are there so many other systems that are similar enough that I feel like that there's clearly a big underlying truth, but there's always something that's different. I don't know what I'm asking correctly.
All right, yeah, I understand it. So you're basically asking, why is it that all kinds of religions have the same stuff?
I feel like that most people in other religions aren't trying to get anything different. They're just going about it in a slightly different way.
If you're going to start a religion that's false, do you make it look patently false?
Right.
You counterfeit, you don't counterfeit dollar bills and make them look like, Monopoly money. You make them look somewhat similar, but just a little off. All right, so it's the same kind of thing. There's the truth it's kind of narrow, it's exclusive, it's logically consistent. You find inconsistency in the other things you have to say, or even in most expressions of Christianity, it's horribly inconsistent, but there are ways that it's uniform and consistent and logically true. But there's going to be stuff off. So if you're trying to get people to go the wrong way, start something that goes that way. And even if you're trying to get it to, you don't deliberately put that stuff in, it sneaks in because you don't have the real thing.
Got it. That makes sense.
Okay, let's go down here. Oh, sorry. Down. Oh yeah, the two greatest commands is the next thing we're going to cover. So the purpose for which you were created is the first thing. You need to actually come up with something. I want to jot it down. What is your purpose for being on earth? It probably has something to do with one of those things, the bad, better, best. pick one and make it your own. Let's take a look at the next thing. Most of you have heard that there are 2 great commands. Anybody know what they are? 2 greatest commands. Love God, love your neighbor. Like, those are the questions on the final exam. Right? So, if they're commanded, it means you're supposed to do them. Now, how do you actually do them? How do you love God and how do you love your neighbor? Outside of people who have attended this seminar, I have yet to run into someone who actually has a plan to do those things. A written plan to achieve it, because it matters to them. It's amazing how many people say, oh yeah, I know about, I'm supposed to glorify God, I haven't a foggiest clue as to how to do it. I know I'm supposed to love God and love my neighbor. I guess that means I go to church and be nice to people, but I've never kind of worked it out. You know, what do you actually do? And I'm going to give you a little insights into that from nothing else than Scriptures. So what's your life plan? How are you actually going to live your life? Why don't you take 3 minutes, and please stop talking when I start talking again. Get some coffee if you need it, and discuss what's bad about bad. Go. Okay, people, let's get back to the salt lines, please. Lunch is coming within 45 minutes, so we're actually falling behind, but yeah, it always happens. Okay, so what's wrong about maximizing your potential or turning every situation to your advantage? Anything wrong with that?
Yeah, we were talking, you and I and Sharon, we thought it's kind of self-focused and self-absorbed. If all you care about is your potential, you're not going to be of much use to anybody else.
Great, all right, that's a good one. How about Hitler and Stalin? Did they maximize their potential for being, you know, world oppressors? Yeah, so it's, you know, not necessarily good to maximize your potential if your potential is for evil, as Dr. Evil did. So, and it is very self-absorbed. Okay, how about experience everything under the sun? Go for the gusto. Be all you can be.
Not possible.
It's not possible, but you could try.
It always has to be one out. You're never gonna be satisfied.
All right, how about who wants to go experience cancer? Nobody? That's not on your bucket list? Yeah, there are some things that probably aren't worth experiencing, so you're going to need some sort of filtering mechanism. It's probably not a good objective. Not only is it unrealistic and impossible, but you need to be a little wise and discerning in terms of the stuff you go after. How about leave the world a better place than I found it? I beg your pardon?
Big mess to clean up.
We were saying like we can leave our apartments a better place.
Wait a minute, we used to tell you that. Why don't you try leaving your room better than you found it? What's wrong with that? That's actually pretty common. It's a little short-sighted. Is the world getting better or getting worse? Yeah, it actually, by and large, it's on an objective viewpoint, it's getting worse. If you want to reduce your carbon blueprint and fulfill your life purpose like this, stop reading. And then you just made the world a better place by leaving it. So it's...
Back outside.
Yeah. No, it gets worse. So grab a seat before you fall over. Okay. The world is, according to 2 Peter 2, it's going to be destroyed. So I want some sort of purpose, plan for my life that outlives it. I don't want to just live for the short term. I want to live for the long term. So that's kind of why I wouldn't adopt that one. To be a nice person so others will like me. Yeah, I know, this one I could never do. But it's always going to be somebody who doesn't appreciate artistry and find, by and large, if you're doing the right thing, people aren't going to like you. They're going to be jealous. They're going to sabotage you. It's just like trying to please people is not a good term like pursuit. I know you're here. Get over here. All right, there it is. To be the best, or at least better than someone else. What's wrong with this?
There's always someone better.
There's always someone better.
And if you're comparing yourself to others, are you getting better?
Yeah, you're always looking at someone else, not yourself. I remember, who was it? The name escapes me. One of the Olympic gold medalists, the gal from Long Island. Yes, okay. She won gold, right? She was the best. Is that right? She was the best at that point. Okay? Now, she was the best ice skater. Was she the best at other things? No, in order to be the best at something, you do it to the exclusion of everything else. You just put all your time and effort into this one objective, and she was actually more balanced than most. But still, she didn't have the opportunities to do the other things because she had to be focused on the one thing. Trying to be the best is always going to be someone that comes along to knock you off. Number one always changes, and people who try to live at the top of their ratings usually are very, very disappointed. To fully live every moment as if it were my last. Anything wrong with this one?
401k plan.
Just be crying the whole time.
Yeah, right. If this was your life philosophy, you wouldn't plant trees, you wouldn't plan for the future, you wouldn't get training and education, because it's like, hey, tomorrow it's over. It's my last. So all these are popular mantras in culture, but they aren't really the better ones.
Wait,
yeah.
Is that really true? Because I think Steve Jobs mentioned something like that similar, which a lot of people really appreciate that, and indeed made some really good contributions based on this notion.
Yeah, but he actually wasn't following through on living every moment as if it was his last, because he was planning for the next, what was going to happen in the future. We're rolling out new products. I think you really should live recognizing that this could be your last, but that's not your plan. That's a good methodology. Is like, if my life was to end today, would this be something that I would have wanted to do or not? But then the plan as to how you're going to go forward needs to be something that goes beyond just the next day. You need to be a little forward-looking. And then I agree that from a methodological perspective, this is a decent kind of filter to put items through. So your better ones is to love God, influence the world, grow in Christ-likeness. You pick the best one. They're on your own. Okay, that's for purpose. Now I'm going to move down to objectives. It's on one of those pages. And let's see if I can blow this up. Yeah, here we are. Up. Okay. There's a psalm in the Old Testament written by someone other than David, a guy you've all heard of, called Moses. It's called the Song of Moses. He wrote it near the end of his life. Impacted the world with his life. Pretty good idea of what the world was about. In Psalm 90, verse 10, he says, "The length of our days is 70 years, or 80 if we have the strength." It's the old 10 New King James books. Yet their span is but toil and sorrow. Wow, toil is in the Bible. Look at that. All right. Time of your life. But life can be difficult. They quickly pass and we fly away. This is basically saying life is short and then you die. And then the good news is you get judged, which for some people might be bad news. So, who knows the power of your anger? For your wrath is as great as the fear that is due you. I should have whipped that into a more modern translation. But the idea is you face a judge at the end, and you want to make sure that you're doing what he wants, because he's a fearsome, awesome God. And you want to be able to give an account and do well when he says, "Okay, so what'd you do with the life I gave you?" I didn't know this was coming. I just gave you a whole book that says it's coming. You didn't read it, did you? Was there things to come? No, it's called the Bible. Okay. So, the conclusion that Moses reflects on this is verse 12. "Teach us to number our days correctly, that we might gain a heart of wisdom." The way the Hebrew reads, you could also do this, "to present to thee a heart of wisdom." Hebrew thought, now you know liver is glory, here's another piece. Heart is where they made their decisions. Okay, so heart in our culture is more the seat of emotions. There it was the volitional part. Okay, so that's where they made their decisions. And they wanted to present a heart of wisdom. May the favor of our Lord God rest upon us, establish the work of our hands. Just establish the work of our hands because we want to have them do well, so when we appear before you, we'll look good. The thing I want to key in on is this word wisdom. You want to live a wise life. The Apostle Paul in the New Testament said, "Hey, be careful how you live. Don't live like a stupid idiot." That's what unwise is there. But as a wise person, make the most of every opportunity. This is translated, buy back the time, redeem the time. Because the days are evil, don't be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is. God's will is something that's understandable, and you need to be wise to go about this. So what's this thing called wisdom? You got a whole book in the Old Testament called the Book of Proverbs that's designed to teach wisdom. But what is wisdom? One of the earlier occurrences of it shows up in the book of Exodus. And in it, the nation of Israel is coming out of Egypt, and God is giving them building plans for how he wants them to construct their tabernacle. And he actually says, "I'm going to put in the heart of the craftsman wisdom to carve the tops of the columns." And I don't know too much about sculpting, but the one piece I do know is that people say they look at the block of marble, and then they chip away everything that doesn't look like a lion, and voila, you have something you can stick in front of the library on Fifth Avenue. You carve away everything that doesn't look like a lion. So that means you have to have a picture of what you want, and then the skill to make it happen. And from that physiological definition, you can actually see it go through in the theological definitions as the scriptures progress. It's choosing the right objective. and then the right means of obtaining the objective. I know some of you guys trade. You want to trade, you want to pick the right stock, but you also want to buy it at the right price. It doesn't do you any good to get the right stock that's going to at a high price and then it pulls back. So you want to do both the right objective and the right means of obtaining the objective. For life, it's the same thing. This is something I think that Luke asked earlier. He wants to have the right objective. So what are the wise ones? The wise ones are the ones that the wisdom of the ages, as well as the scriptures, are going to demonstrate this is what you need for a happy life. I teach a course on Western Civ at the University of New Jersey. And in it, we go on a quest through history for what's truth. The definition of truth is that which explains all the facts. I want every piece of information in the equation. I'm not going to slip anything under the rug. I need to explain all the facts. And it's found at the convergence of three things: revelation, reason, and reality. The way we do my class is you get revelation from the Jews, you get reason from the Greeks, and then you get reality from the Romans. Now, I'm giving you some of the revelation piece. When I gave you that study on the fruits of happiness, what actually makes people happy, that was the reality piece. And then what we're doing when you discuss stuff, it's kind of the reason piece. You're trying to figure out which way to go, to find out what's the best way to go. Any questions on objectives? Objectives are where you're headed, you want them wise, you want to be ones that actually accomplish your purpose. It's one great test of your objective. Like, remember, the purpose of professional football, make money. Objective, win as many games as possible. Do those correlate? Will winning as many games as possible help you make the most money? Yeah. That's how you get to the Super Bowl. Will scoring the most touchdowns get you to winning the most games? Yeah, to get the most money. So it's consistency. I want to help you build that into your lives, cut out the stuff that doesn't contribute to your objectives, and then you can live a lot more happily ever after. Yeah?
Things like leisure activities, for lack of a better term, does that contribute? As far as objective contributing, there's some things that even when I have a day where I'm like really on my game, I'm getting a lot of things done and satisfied with it, I'll do things that don't serve any other purpose except that it gives me pleasure and I can relax for a second. So is that like, is things like that, that's part of the objective, right? Is we have to have, like I have to have study breaks.
There's balance. Right under priorities, the first verse there, please ask these three from the world's wisest man, Solomon. So there's a time for everything.
Oh, it helps you go into your next.
There's a time to work, and there's a time to plan, there's a time to bust your hump, and there's a time to chill. All right, there's a balance. There's a section called personal growth, and it's sharpen the saw, and we'll get to that. Because if you don't take the breaks to make you sharp, there's a law of diminishing returns. So there's a balance, there's a strategy for how you live.
Yes.
If you look at the agricultural model, which I'm really fond of understanding, there were times when they, to get the fields planted and the seed in, they just, worked like crazy. But then, what do? You sit and watch the grass grow. There's a time for chill. Because you cannot continually pump adrenaline into your system and expect to be fit and healthy and happy. So there's a time for everything. So then you have to, the thing to do is to quantify it, say, okay, how much time do I really need?
Right. Okay.
So I need an hour. Nope, I need 2. No, I need 48. Okay, priorities answers the question, when do you do something? And there's a number of different ways of looking at this. As long as I got this screen up, I'll do this. One of my favorite verses that was very life-changing to me was, seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. I might tell you a story about that if I have time later, but I might not. That's the first thing you're supposed to seek. If you understand the Sermon on the Mount, it's seeking the reward in the kingdom. If you don't understand the Sermon on the Mount, pick up one of the cards for Daily Truth Base, the blog, go to Matthew, sign up, read the emails, and understand the scripture, and you can understand that it's really seeking God's approval and blessing in the future as a result of our time here on earth. And then all that other stuff we seek will be added to us. And this has been proven true in my life and almost the life of everyone I know who's seriously tried this. They decided not to put their own interests first, but God's interests first, and they lived happily ever after. I will tell you this story because I want to flesh this one out a little bit more. When I was graduating from college, I asked myself, gee, what do I like doing the most? And I went to Cornell's hotel school and was opening up hotels. I had opened up one, did 2 restaurants actually, even before I graduated. I said, wow, it's creative, it's fun, it's invigorating. If I could do anything I wanted, it would be opening up restaurants. So I had a job offer down here in the city to work for Leona Helmsley in a hotel brokerage division. Leona Helmsley would have been my boss. Yeah, that would have been miserable. And I was remanaging distressed properties. I would have put in all kinds of hours. I actually would have been miserable, and I had a couple things come into my life to realize that wasn't the best thing to do. And I had an opportunity to go to learn how to invest in people's lives in this godforsaken place called Syracuse, New York. It's like, you know, snow, cold, you know, nothing up there. And so I look for a job up there so I can be involved administering the college students up there, and there's nothing. You know, I basically always had a job, put myself through school. I couldn't get a job washing pots in the fraternity, and I had opened up 2 restaurants, one in Switzerland. So I'm thinking, something's wrong here. And then, after God kind of humbled me and realized that I needed to depend on Him more, I got a job. A company was basically created where for in a year and a half I was able to open up 15 restaurants. I was happy. You know, it's like, this is what I love doing, and I was able to do it in the proper amount of time. So I sought first the kingdom of God. I sought first I want to learn how to invest in others' lives and make a difference for their eternity. And this other stuff got added, and it was great. And then it came to a point where I basically had crossroads, and I had to ask myself, what did I really enjoy doing now? And having been there and done that with the restaurant thing, I said, you know what I really like? I like investing in people's lives. You know, that really turned my crank a whole lot more than opening up a restaurant. And God gave me some opportunities to go do that. Still haven't given me good skills in doing these things. There's a book. I told you the entertainment would be me trying to use this, and so I'm glad you're enjoying it. There's a book in the New Testament, the second Gospel. It's called the Gospel according to St. Matthew, and it's a manual of discipleship. And if you've been reading the Gospels and they're all kind of blurry, you need to figure out why they're written. And when I realized the disciples are highlighted in the book of Mark, I read it from the perspective of, what did the disciples get out of this? So I'm reading, the disciples are supposed to learn something. They're really highlighted in the book. Like Luke spends 220 verses until he gets to the point where he calls the disciples. Mark spends 11 verses, and then he calls the disciples, and it's a blow-by-blow description. So it's like, should tell you right in the front of the book, this is important. He's putting a lot of ink. Stop and think. So then one of the first, so I looked at it, and I eventually put together a series called Lessons of Discipleship from Mark, and you can find it on the web on truthbase.net. But here's one of the spots. This is a time in Jesus' ministry where he's just getting accepted. Everybody's been rejecting him. Like, who are you? You're a carpenter kid, you know. What, you know, who's your daddy? You know, it's like, so it's, I'm sure he got a lot of reviews all through his life from that. So now he's just getting a reception. So very early in the morning, when it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Then Simon and his companions went to look for him because there was a bunch of people. And they go find Jesus. And they said, everybody's looking for you. You know, we set up the stage, come on down, you know, go do your thing. And then Jesus says, let's go somewhere else to the nearby villages so I can preach there also. That is why I have come. So we're not told what he prayed about, but from things that follow, and the fact that he did pray and he gave a lot of emphasis to it, we get some really good insights. What he was doing in that prayer time was affirming his purpose for being on the planet. Because he was able to resist the temptation to go where the popular claim was. I mean, wouldn't you rather go somewhere where everybody's like, oh, you're wonderful, as opposed to a new spot where everybody's going to reject you again? So the only thing that can cause you to overcome the natural tendencies is if you have clearly in your mind the focus of, why are you here? What are you supposed to be doing with your time? And a little bit later, I'm going to talk about some ways in the morning you want to affirm why you're on earth. What's your purpose? What are you here for? What do you want to have happen? And then you're much more able to make the thing happen throughout later the day. Questions on that one? Great. Okay, we're going to be talking about work. A bunch of tools in there. Relationships. The way that book is outlined, organized, is you have some work and then things that follow. You have tools to help you in your relationships and things that follow. By the way, those two guys up there that are two guys fighting, which is what relationships are really about. Some people don't appreciate my son's artwork, but that was easy for me. Then we're going to talk about how to grow spiritually. A bunch of tools to help you do that. Then we'll talk about personal growth, how to sharpen the axe or saw, how to have some ministry influence. Under personal growth, I normally don't do this. I'm hoping to get here this semester. Remember I told you the $25,000 index card? Down here, later in your book, is the TOYL organizer thing, which is worth a whole lot more than that. And now we're going to go back to work objective, okay? So I don't know what page this is on, but when you can find it. Who's got the page? Anybody?
27.
Yeah, it might be 2 pages off. Is it really 27? It's in 27?
It's 27.
Woo! That's the old book or new book?
New book.
Wow, I lucked out. Okay, somewhere the pagination gets a little bit off. Okay, so we want to talk about work, so let's get a little bit of help. Work objectives. Since I'm running late, food's going to be here at 12:30, I'm just going to zip through these. I'm not going to give you the time to talk because you actually were 30 seconds late in getting back, but no. We'll do the ones after ones where you can discuss. Some people have their objectives to meet their needs and satisfy their desires for power, pleasure, and possessions. Anything wrong with that? I work to gratify my desires.
That's good.
It's good.
Burn you out.
Get burned out. Kind of selfish.
You can't always do that.
Yeah.
You can't control it. Your work's going to satisfy all of those things, or you're going to be successful.
Yeah, you look to your job to meet all those needs. Your job becomes your idol, and it usually winds up disappointing you. How about Michael Milliken's?
And if you lose your job, then
Yeah.
you're without all those things.
That's, yeah, if you base all your life on your job, lose your job, you're out. Michael Milliken, to make as much money as they can without going to jail. That was his objective. Do people who have, like, power, pleasure, and possessions, are they happy?
Well, they might be, but not directly because they have all
Lindsay Lohan.
No.
Why not? She's got fame, right? She's got money. Everybody knows about her.
I guess it's more about how you use it, because Bill Gates seems to be pretty happy because he's giving it all away and trying to, like, cure polio or something. Not because he has $28 billion.
So most people actually get into some form of philanthropy because now they got it, sorry. But most people think, oh, if I just had what, quote, the celebrity has, do they not read us? I don't read it. I think that's the one. Yeah, I see when I check out the supermarket. You know, if you look at these people who get to the top, and then okay, now what happens? They actually wind up engaging in wholesale escapism because it's empty and it doesn't satisfy. Unless they get into doing something philanthropic, that kind of gives them some sense of purpose and being a nice person, but then someone's not going to like them, so it's a fun. How about this is more appropriate at various times in our economic cycle. To help the economy by obtaining the means to be a good consumer. You get that GDP up, all right? So buy. All right. To find security, significance, self-worth, and pleasure outside of my relationship with God. That's really what most people are trying to do. And it's always going to be shallow, it's always going to be short-centered, and if they achieve a level of success, it's going to be ephemeral. To do my work heartily is to the Lord is something right out of Colossians. To find a job I can love, I'm going to talk to you about doing that. That gives you the time and money to pursue your life plan. That's not bad. Fund your life purpose. There's some good things there. Utilize the unique abilities God's giving you. That's kind of good. Best one is your own. So what you have under the work thing is 5 areas to evaluate your work on, and I'm not sure how much I'll get this through. It's a worksheet, it's under the work section.
53.
Thank you, hon. 53, my lovely number assistant. So there are 5 things. If you're in your current job thinking of changing it, if you're thinking about taking a job, this is what you look at. You look at the work. Does it really match your design, your abilities, your capabilities, what you like doing? By the way, work basically will not match all of your capabilities, and the reason they pay you is because you don't like doing it. I remember I was like in the interview process, I teach at this university, and I'd written something up about, A students, they're why I teach. And this guy says, because, they're inquisitive, they, just are intellectually stimulating, and they're kind of fun to be around, and you can actually have an intelligent discussion with them. And then one of the old-time teachers there said, well, what about the B and C students? Are that why you teach? And I said, no, that's why you pay me to teach. To bang my head against the desk to try to get something into their head. So there's always going to be something that you don't like, and that's why they pay you. Otherwise, you'd be paying them, if you think about it. So the investment of time, energy, and skill required. If it requires too much or too little skill, you might want to consider changing. If it takes too much of your time, you might want to consider changing as well. If you have nothing left to give to yourself or anybody else at the end of the day, then maybe this type of investment of time is not wise. It's not the right objective. If it prevents you from having interaction with those that you love and care about, then it's probably not wise. Then there's the old people and environment. This can change. Actually, all these things, some of them can change and some of them cannot, so you have to figure out which in your situation can change or not. So, I really can't stand the people, but maybe they're leaving. Or I really can't stand the environment, but maybe that's changing. So that's another piece to evaluate. Then the potential for growth, inward and outward. And then, last but not least, the money and benefits. So you evaluate your job potentials on these criteria to see which one comes out best. Any questions on that one? Okay, Finding a Job You Can Love is a great book that is very, very useful for folks. I talked about my snapshot that I did earlier about writing my paper on management. When I used to be Dean of New York School of the Bible, and I had a star professor who worked for an advertising firm, and everyone who had this job left to start their own boutique firm the next year. So he was all set to actually open up his own firm the next year. And then he tells me he's leaving New York to go back to England. I said, sorry to lose you, what are you going to do that for? And he said, I actually want to become a pastor. I said, no! Because I always try to talk people out of doing silly stuff like that. And, because it's usually not the motives are really bad. So I said, well, why are you doing that? And he said he found this book called Finding a Job You Can Love, and did the stuff, and he realized that it really clicked, and that's why he's going. Cheerio. So I went and got the book. Cheerio. Oh, finding a job? Oh, typo. Really Yo, great, finding a job. Yo, finding. Yo, finding a job. All right. So, I basically extracted the book onto one page, so you can see it, and it tells you how to do it. Their basic motivated abilities that people have. I'm not sure how much time I'm going to get into this one. Oh, sure, let's make it this way. Okay, yeah, do I have time for this? Alright, their basic motivation, the stuff in the center, this basic motivated abilities, and let me give you a couple examples of this. We had a gal who, you find these out by taking snapshots of your life, different portions of your life, something you really enjoy doing for the different periods of your life, as I mentioned earlier. Then you kind of ask yourself some questions, which are on the next sheet, that tell you how you get into it, what you enjoy, what made it more enjoyable, why you stop. And then you line up all the snapshots, and you figure out where the common thread is. Okay, so I've had some people do this, and one gal had come to New York to be an opera singer, and her career wasn't going anywhere. So I suggested she try out for some of the Broadway stuff. And she said, oh, I wouldn't sing that trash. I don't know, I didn't think it was that bad. I knew some people who, went to musical theater. And she said, I need to sing the perfect note. And her basic design was to perfect. It's one of these things on here. And she Should be in here somewhere.
Yeah.
On the left side.
Third up.
All right, it's there. So her temp job that eventually became her second career was she became the secretary to the principal of a CPA firm. She loved typing the perfect letter, adding up the perfect column of numbers. That she was really happy because she was using this basic design of perfecting. Fortunately, she never reproduced because if she had parents, I mean, if she was a parent, she would ruin any kids because, you know, trying to make, she would have the imperfect spouse and the imperfect kids. Her life would be miserable. She'd make their life miserable, so it wasn't good. And another guy who was also an opera singer, seems like most of these people looking for jobs, and he was a waiter. So I asked him what he liked about being an opera singer, and he said, I learned this opera in Italian, and I was singing it. It was this Italian woman in the front row, and there were tears in her eyes. She was crying. I said, was that bad? And he said, no, it's because she was so moved by it. I said, oh, right, yeah, okay. So you kind of like having this influence on her. Yeah, right. Okay, so then I said, what about your job? What do you like? And he said, well, when I recite the daily specials and the people buy them. I said, let's see the common thread here. You like to move people with your voice, so you want to look for opportunities to be able to do that, good in sales and stuff like that. So there's, it's a great little exercise if you've never done it, but we're not going to have much more time to do that. Let's see this. All right, here's a little difference between work and play. Play is effort expended voluntarily, usually an expectation of an inconsequential reward. Work, on the other hand, is effort that's expended usually under compulsion. They have to pay you to do it. The expectation of something that's a little more significant. So kind of the difference between work and play. There are lots of other variables, other ways of looking at it. The important stuff, though, is the little acrostic that spells work. It's worship and witness if we do it with the right motives and attitudes. That's why I'm usually against people trying to get into some sort of religious thing. You do your work heartily, it's worship. It's ordained by God for our benefit. Do you know that Adam, in an unfallen state, was given work to do? So we're made to work. People who are given meaningless work to do kind of go crazy. Some of the concentration camps, one of the things they used to do to drive the guys nuts is they would have them dig a hole and then fill it up. By the way, the military does that too, training people break their will. But so then the next day they come out, they dig another hole, and then they would fill it up. And just the lack of meaning or purpose in their work was driving them crazy, because it wasn't building to anything. Work can be rewarding and rewarded if done biblically. Colossians 3 says you get a double paycheck at the end. And the major point I want you to understand is the stuff that underlined in blue. It consists of serving in others' needs. It's really what you do. That's why they pay you, because you serve their needs. Like my students, I serve their need for knowledge. I serve their need for discipline. You basically are serving a client's needs. Almost all work basically boils down to what are you serving their need for? Education, getting a message out, all kinds of stuff. Work helps others with their objectives. So that's kind of what work is about. You want to view work as that. Wrong reasons for working. It's to meet your needs. Bad one because your needs are met by God. There's a little booklet by Will Hendrickson at the very bottom of this material saying, why go to work? That explains some of the stuff in here. And you can explore them on your own. Some of them came out of our bad objectives thing, but it's, you know, basically work is the channel through which you get your needs met. Think of Israel in the wilderness coming between Egypt and the Promised Land. How did they get their needs met? Did they plant anything? No. God provided their needs to show, I'm the one who does it. But then when they get in there, he tells them to plant. And he says, don't plant on every 6th year. And that was the stuff they disobeyed on because they couldn't trust him. And if you can't trust that God provides for your needs, you will depend solely on yourself. You will wind up being disappointed. And God's not going to be too pleased either. To use the talents God's given you, you're supposed to use them for the service of others, not for yourself. Better reasons for working. I'm just going to touch on 2. You can read these on your own. Develops character, and it develops testimony. So you basically want to have God look good. You're a follower of God. You want to help him look good in the eyes of others. Your character and skill set gets polished on your job more than anything else because the schools didn't do it, parents usually didn't do it. So that's really why God has all these sandpaper people in your life. You have bosses and coworkers that you can't hate, that you can't stand, because you have some lessons to learn, some irritations to deal with. Okay, that's the work thing. Right reasons. Next guy. Discovering your design. I just talked about that. Let's see if this goes to the next one. People who built on discovering your design wrote a book called The Great Niche Hunt. You take the same 7 pictures, these action shots that I described there in the storyline, and then you check off the preferred style of processing. Basically, jobs boil down to this. You gather something, you do something to it, and then you put it out. It's got these 3 aspects. So we talked about manufacturing shoes. You gather design, leather stuff, you make a shoe, you sell it. If you're in communication, you gather information, you put it in a form, you put it out. Okay, everything follows those 3 things. Some people are stronger in one area than the other, but you want to be basically competent in all 3 of them. More on the Great Niche Hunt. Discovering your child's designs in there for you, parenting things. Okay, we have, I'll do relationships right after our break. And any questions? Lunch is here yet?
No, but we'll check on it.
Okay, then I won't give you a break. I'm going to go do more. But
A couple of quick things.
sure.
I'd like to take a shot at the definition of leadership versus management.
Mm-hmm.
That people have trouble with. Leadership is doing the right things, and management is doing things right. Leadership is having the vision and the direction and the objectives and pointing that way. Management is implementing plans to get.
I'd agree with that, but doing the right thing is telling people on the change so they will follow you. Because if you don't have people following because you persuaded them to follow, you're not leading, you're just taking a walk. I had one guy who was a leader basically say, I have to cast a vision for the people. I said, no, you basically have to get people to buy into the vision. It means you got to go to the people and figure out what are their needs, expectations, desires, what are they willing to go for, and then you pull that together in such a way that they buy into it, as opposed to, like, been on Mount Sinai and I have the vision that we're supposed to follow. That's a lot of leaders kind of are like that, and there is this wonderful thing called participation and getting people involved in it. So, yeah.
The second thing is, with the lunch today, Barb and I had to do, Barb did most of the work, I just supervised. We have less people here than were originally planned for, so please eat generously, and there's stuff to take home afterwards if you want, so don't be bashful.
Okay, let's talk about relationships, because I'm a little behind schedule. The relationships objective, everybody has relationships. We're going to look for bad, better, best first. This is real simple. The bad relationships objective is to get your needs for stimulation, fun, security, fulfillment, companionship, etc. met through someone else. That's the basic wrong objective. It's using people. Other objectives that kind of fit in there are to never be hurt or vulnerable. That's a guy thing. To be accepted and supported unconditionally. It's a gal thing. They kind of do that. There's no such thing as unconditional acceptance. There's unconditional love. Love is desiring what's in another's best interest. That's legitimate. God loves that way. However, He doesn't unconditionally accept behavior. Just think, how many people from the Exodus generation made it into the Promised Land? 2. What happened to the others? Killed them in the desert. God does not accept people that kind of are doing the wrong things. The very first thing that gets said to humanity after Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden, in the beginning of Genesis 4, God says to Cain, if you want to be accepted, do what's right. There are conditions to being accepted, both in relationships and in the spiritual realm. So if people go around looking for unconditional acceptance, you're basically expecting others to have a higher capability than God has, and you will always be disappointed. So I know that goes against some of the conventional Christian wisdom, but it's kind of really the biblical wisdom. We can spend all day proving it. So what you really want is an objective that's going to be outside yourself, and it's going to be reciprocal. So the better, let me do please others so they'll like me. These folks are great, you can get them to do almost anything. But you're easily manipulated, and you don't want that as an objective for your life. The trick is, and I cover this on the self-esteem page, and I don't think we're going to get to that this afternoon, but the idea behind this one is, if you're doing what is pleasing in God's sight, He's pleased with you. Your needs are met by God. I actually have a section in here on can God meet emotional needs. It's one of my most requested sermons that I never do. So I gave you the outline on it. By the way, for those of you who've been bugging me about doing one on perfectionism, next 2 weeks I'm actually doing the perfectionism sermon. I finally got it to where I like it.
Right?
Yeah, I finally got it right. All right, so hopefully. But God meets our needs, then I'm free to meet the needs of others. So when Jill and I graduated from college, we went up and involved in the student ministry. Students are notorious ingrates. You know, their parents have given them all this stuff. They don't know how to be appreciative. They don't know how to give back. And where they're trying to serve them, and you don't get a lot of positive affirmation when you try to help people. Sometimes you do, frequently you don't. So Jill and I both had this mindset of our needs are met by God, so we can meet the needs of others. When we finally got married, wow, there's another person who appreciated it, and we had a lot more harmony than we would have had we basically gone into the relationship saying, well, how are you going to meet my needs? How are you going to meet my needs? So the relationship objective is you want to develop intimate, transparent. Intimate means people know you deeply. Transparent, what you see is what you get. Accountable, you know what's going on in my life, I know what's going on in your life, when we talk to each other, which don't have an end in themselves, but move people towards being more like Christ. So that's part of our goal that we are on earth for. And it should have something on that. Oh yeah, the whole thing on friendship. I can cover this for lunch. This is part of a series on friendship. This is jumping in the middle of it. In order to be friends, the nature of friendship was part one. In order to be friends with each other, it really helps if you're first a friend of God, because obedience sets your... Thank you. Page 58. Obedience sets your heart on the same direction. John 15 talks about that. So if you're both in the same direction, you've got commonality, the basis for relationship. Needs get met on an infinite level. Character, number 5, becomes more lovable. And then you can learn to love from a master and pass that on to someone else. So people who go from being totally carnally self-centered to being a little more spiritual and other-centered can become better friends. Friendship is a thing that you can actually develop by being more of a friend. So you want to develop the skill set that's necessary for friendships. Went through a couple books, pulled out the ones that are really useful. Notice the first one on the skill set is self-denial. Friends do not dump on other friends. You know, you need to treat your friends well. So self-denial is an absolute essential if you want to be a good friend. You can't just blurt out whatever you're saying. You can't just, oh, I'm just going to let it all hang out. No, you basically need to always act in love. Is this in the person's best interest for me to act this way or say this? There's skills and activities that you can do. They share deeply. Notice under share deeply, the first thing is listen. Then there's talk, and then reflect and all that other good stuff. There's we'll just leave that. Friends kind of exchange time, life. We do this one out of C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis said we basically picture lovers face to face, looking at each other. Friends side by side, looking at a common objective. So one of the things that builds friendship is a common cause. If you both are going after the same thing, then you have a potential for a good friendship. And all good marriages should have good friendships. There should be a common cause of following God before there's a thing of following each other. Leave that one alone. Spiritual growth, am I going to do this one? No, I don't want to do more than that one. Foods here. Okay, I'll cover some of I'll do personal growth. Personal growth objective. A bad one, prove how good I can be. I did a little attempt at time management consulting, and there's this woman who basically said, I'm in the office until 10 o'clock every night. So I said, what are you doing until 10 o'clock at night? I'm redoing my subordinate's work. Why are you doing your subordinate's work. Because it's not done like I would do it. I said, did your boss say he wanted you to redo their work? No. Is the client unhappy? No. So why are you doing the work? And it says, because it's not done the way I would do it. So I said, okay, you really, what you're telling me is that you don't have a job after 5 o'clock, you have a hobby. Which is showing that you are better than your employees. Because that's what she was doing. And, it's like, that's a bad objective. Another bad objective is to be interesting and admired by others. The public is fickle. To be the best I can be so I'll like myself or be secure. That's another bad one. The Marines like that one. But to be the best you can be. And in some areas it's worth being the best you can be. In others it's worth being less than you could be. Particularly once you get married and you have kids, there's lots of stuff that you would like to do that you wind up cutting out of your life because there are people that are more important than personal aspiration. If you don't have that mindset, you should not be getting married or producing offspring. A better one is to maximize your time by increasing your skill level. This is the whole thing of sharpening the saw. I get to tell you my really bad joke on this one. So there are these guys that came over from a nameless Eastern European country, so I haven't been too many nationalities, that decide they want to get jobs as lumberjacks, and they're used to using axes. So they go into a hardware store and say, you have chainsaws? And he said, yeah. And he said, is it true you can cut down a lot of trees with this? Oh yeah, like 50? Oh yeah, people do 50, 70 trees a day with a chainsaw. He said, okay, we'll take one. So they go take the chainsaw, they get back the next day and they're just like really dragging. And he said, did you say this could cut down 50 or 70 trees? He said, yeah. And he said, we only got 2 or 3. No, you can do 50 or 70. So they go out and they come back that night and they say, we just got 1 tree down the whole day. So the guy chainsaw puts on the counter and says, well, let's see what's wrong. He pulls the chain, and the guy said, what's that noise? So thank you for laughing. I won't be here all week. All right, but do tip your waiters. Okay, so the idea behind it is you need to take time to be sharp. You need to figure out what it is that recreates you, not what causes you to escape and drains you, but what helps you be sharper. So there's lots of things that you can do to become sharper. And one of my favorite, if I increase my skill level in living, I can be sharper. Oops, let's go back here. If I basically systematize and, that last one, sorry. If I systematize and sharpen my life, I can get things done faster. 10 minutes? Okay. So I basically want to be able to get my stuff done efficiently and effectively. I'm going to show you some stuff after lunch to make that happen. And then I will move on to the other side. Okay, let's do spiritual growth objective. Everything I've looked at, from secular and of course spiritual stuff, says there's got to be some spiritual component to a life in order for people to be happy. Myers found in every study and everything I've read, even from people